A sort of unique, maybe historical event between India and Italy. It's the first time we have here together representatives from many Italian companies, representatives from many Indian companies, but also researchers, representative of the Italian and Indian Research Center. This is the way we want to promote our partnership. Innovation, technology, public-private partnership is the key to work together on the many challenges we have for our countries and for the world. We have intensified our cooperation over the last few years. We received Mr. Sharma in Rome only 2 years ago. We launched 23 projects, 3 million euro allocated and used already, both sides. That means an intense, strong, productive, fruitful cooperation in a very short time. But I think we should have this opportunity of the Tech Summit to promote, enhance a long-term process with a long-term vision. That means continuity in our exchange, projects, new projects, involvement of companies and research centers. We work together also with India and Italy in multilateral framework, like the Horizon program of the European Union, CERN in Geneva. We have 2 flagship projects in Italy, in Trieste, Synchrotron, and Trento. India and Italy invest a lot in those projects. And we have also identified key areas where research centers and companies work together. Clean energy, energy efficiency, life science, advanced manufacturing, space industry, where we are also the chairman of our space agency. The space economy will become more and more important in coming years, also to face the challenge of sustainable growth. So I think we are talking about innovative sector, we are talking about joint research, we are talking about a friendship in our partnership, and I think this is not the end of a process, it's the start of a new program of activities, of exchange. We want more students from Italy here in India and more students from India in Italy, more master degree students, PhD students. We want to encourage this exchange because this is the base also to face the challenge we have for us and for the humanity. So I'm very happy today as Minister of Foreign Affairs to support this process. And we want together work with our ministry in Italy, with the partners in India, in a sort of joint process of innovation, of creativity, that include also the cultural dimension. We have talked about heritage, cultural heritage. I would add also creative industry, design. These are all the frontier of cultural collaboration between Italy and India. So I'm so happy to thank again our ministers here, our speakers, and thank you so much for all the companies and research centers coming from Italy and all the Indian companies and research centers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Luca. I would now like to invite our guest of honor, Dr. Michele Geraci, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Economic Development, Italy, to deliver the keynote address.
Good morning everyone. Let me first tell you I'm very, very happy to be here in India for the very first time in this fascinating city, in this great country. And I would like to therefore first express my thanks to the Indian authorities for having chosen Italy as a partner country for this outstanding initiative on a forum that covers sectors that are so central to both the Indian and the Italian economies. The strong interest that we have for these topics is shown by the large presence of companies companies here in the 4 sectors that we will be discussing: aerospace, clean tech, renewable, and healthcare. The Italian delegation here is composed by 150 people, making up about 54 private companies. And I want to thank the Italian system supporting this initiative: the Italian Trade Agency, Confindustria, Federation of Italian Industry, Export Credit Agency, SACE, and all scientific experts here. We have, our 2 countries are going through, I think, big changes, and I think the cooperation amongst our partners is crucial. As you know, we in Italy are a new government, having been in office for only 3 months, and we are trying now to develop economic policies that would sustain the growth of our domestic economy and our international economy for the long term. So we are perhaps, I wouldn't say for the first time, but with a stronger emphasis, trying to make long-term plans without the need to look at short-term achievements. In a way, I think this is a message that I want to give to you, our Italian and Indian friends, that we want to try to implement sustainable reforms with long-term objectives. One of the first areas that I am personally responsible and that I attach great importance is the development of our small and medium enterprises. We do have about 1/3 of our economy that relies on exports, and my responsibility, my capacity as Undersecretary of State is to improve bilateral trade and investment. I'm not here to discuss trade surplus, trade deficits, like exports minus imports. My main goal is not A minus B, rather A plus B. So my goal is to increase trade in both directions. And therefore, while on one hand, I would of course like to see more Italian companies doing business here in India, offering goods that may not be available or easily available to the market, that would be matching complementary skills. But at the same time, I also invite Indian companies to export to Italy for the same symmetric reason. Same goes for investment. We want to invest more here, but at the same time we want to attract more investment into Italy. You do know from also a trade theory point of view that FDI and trade values tend to follow each other. Wherever there is a high reciprocal investment, so there is reciprocal trade, and vice versa. So we would like to create this positive loop that reinforces both capital account and current account relationship between the 2 countries. My view as a economist is that international trade, free trade agreements, and liberal trade is a Darwinian process. By Darwinian process, I mean it's a process that on average brings benefits to the populations involved, so that the average quality of the individual increases. And so the symmetry in the economic terms is that when 2 countries trade with each other, both economies gain, and we have positive gains from trade. The flip side, because as you know there is no free lunch, is that while on one hand average increase, within this average, if we open up, we have big winners and big losers. And so it is in this sense that I see trade as a Darwinian process. The average increases, but within the average there are the weakest, the people who are less fragile, those who do not adapt so quickly, that do fall behind. And so we, in a mix of economics and politicians, we do need to find the balance and balance those two goals. If the main goal is to increase the overall size of the economy, or if the goal is to minimize the losses for the weakest ones. And so in that sense, we, as the new government, we do try to put an emphasis on the weakest ones. And this is because Italy, although it is a country of the G7 group, we have 5 million people below poverty line, almost 10% of the population. And in my view, this is not acceptable. I've come back to Italy after 30 years, having lived abroad, having lived in the US, in the UK, France, Hungary, Finland, Latin America, and China for the last 10 years. And I do hope that we do address those social problems. I'm very happy to be here also because I myself am an electronic engineer before being an expert in finance and economics, and I was a professor. Now I have this job in the government, and so for me it is a great pleasure to see the combination of business and technology exchanges coming together on the same venue. When during one of my most recent lectures in Shanghai, I like to show a chart that shows how countries develop over time, and we have this image of how certain countries in Asia have caught up with their full economic potential. So what we do is we use the United States as the benchmark, because the United States is the biggest and richest on a per capita based country in the world, country of a certain size. Of course, there are countries that have highest GDP per capita, but the US represents the benchmark because of its size. And then we look at the economic development of many other countries. How far are they behind the US, and how long does it take for those countries to reach this theoretical output potential? And so if we look at the history of the last 60, 70 years, we see the first country that starts to catch up with the United States, and that is Japan, that from 1950 until the mid-70s and 80s has encountered a period of high growth that has basically taken its GDP per capita from what used to be 20% that of the United States in 1950 to almost catch up with the United States. So in a way, Japan from 1970 to 1980 has fulfilled its goal of catching up with the US. Second country to do it was Korea. Korea took a little bit later because they decided to wait a bit longer to start economic reforms. So from 1960s, late 60s until 1990, Korea also caught up with the rest of the developed countries and caught up with Japan and almost with the United States. Third country, China, starting in 1978. Again, from 1978 to now, China, 9.5% GDP growth for the last 40 years, still not at the level of the United States, but still having experienced decades of growth. So you can imagine this curve shifted in time. We have first Japan, 15 years later Korea, 15 years later in China, and now we have India. And so what we have is development. India started 15, 20 years later that of China, and now we are seeing this 7.5% growth rate in India. And what we try to do here is to ensure, for the benefit of global growth, of global stability, that not only Japan, Korea, and China fulfill their goal of bringing GDP per capita, not total GDP, that does not matter, GDP per capita, because we care about individual wealth, not country's wealth. We want to make sure that the average income of the average Indian citizen catches up over a reasonable period of time with that of more developed countries. And so I'm here in the interest of both my own country in the interest of our European Union friends and in the interest of our Indian friends to make sure that India fulfills this goal as quickly as possible. And so the message I leave you with is that you can find in me a friend and a partner to help achieve this in the interest of our two countries. I wish you a successful day today and tomorrow. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Mr. Geraci. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to invite our Chief Guest for the day, Dr. Harshvardhan, Minister for Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, Government of India, to deliver the inaugural address.
Good morning, friends. Well, first of all, thanks all of you for showing extreme level of good quality patience, listening to several long speeches. I face a very typical dilemma because we were supposed to get promised to you that we are going to finish this session at 11 o'clock. We are already running against time by something like 27 minutes. But I'm sorry to inform you that doesn't stop me also from delivering the speech that I'm supposed to. And I'm sorry to inform you that there's one more after this in the name of concluding remarks. So you have to bear with me and also the speaker following me. But we are really extremely sorry for this. Everyone wants to put everything on record, that's the problem. But anyway, it's a very, very happy occasion for me. Honorable Dr. Michele Geraci, Mr. Vincenzo de Luca, and Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Mr. Paul Gojeli, Mr. Giulio Pedrone, Dr. Gopichan, Mr. Shrikant Somani, Mr. S.K. Varshne. These are the dignitaries of the dais. And then distinguished delegates from Italy and India, representing government, industry and academia. Our omnipresent friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Government of India and also on my own personal behalf, let me extend a warm welcome to our dear Dr. Michele Geraci, leading a high-level multi-agency delegation for this technology summit, in which Italy is our valued partner country. I also extend my warm greetings to all the participants, and especially the delegates from Italy who have traveled to India for attending this event. I am happy to mention that this event is a key deliverable from the meeting between Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Shri Gentiloni in October 2017. This year will be remembered for two watershed events in Indo-Italian relationship. 17th year of establishing diplomatic ties and 40th year of entering into science and technology cooperation. The technology summit with Italy is indeed symbolic, but also reinforces our friendship and marks a high point of these celebrations. Italy as a country is famous for its paintings, museums, festivals, food, and high quality machinery. It was the font of Roman civilization, which was one amongst the world's most advanced civilizations, including our Indus Valley civilization. Italy has given birth to some of the greatest scientists and innovators of history, the likes of Leonardo da Vinci and Galileo Galilei. Their contribution to promoting scientific temper and bringing to light hitherto unknown facts based on their intuitive knowledge and understanding of the universe is now legendary. Many Italian scholars participated in Sanskrit studies, and Gaspare Geraci created the first chair of Sanskrit in Italy at the University of Turin in 1852. Geraci also translated the Ramayana into Italian, which was published in 10 volumes between 1843 and 1858.